Aloha and welcome back to Across the Spectrum. Ooh, I'm your host, Jordan Conley. Let's see if I can get in the screen. And today we're going to be reviewing Good Political Guy, interviewing Kalynski. Kyle Kalynski was one of my one of the big guys that I followed. It was Secular Talk, is his show. And I've been following him for probably 10, maybe 15 years now. And this past election, I had to stop watching the show. And he's going to explain to you why I had to stop watching the show.
Very happy to be joined right now by the one, the only Kyle Kalynski, Mr. Big Seltzer himself.
So that's an inside joke,
Kyle.
Mr. Big Seltzer.
By the way, no big deal, but
He's got a seltzer in his hands.
we got the seltzer.
He's proving all of the conspiracies correct right now. So, Kyle, the big thing that I wanted to start off with you on is obviously how did we get to this point? And I think that I should start off with this, which is that you led me down.
This is exactly why I had to stop watching him.
2024 election. I was saying, and you can check the record on this on my channel, for weeks, for months, leading up to the election, I said, my gut says Trump is going to win. The main reason that I said that is because we had polling data that a vast majority of the country thinks we're heading on the wrong track, right? People still feel fucked.
And even on his show, Kyle went over that, the polling data, talking about how most Americans feel that the American economy is not on the right track and America's just not going the right way. But
Over, they feel left behind. The economy is not working for them. People want to change candidate. Kamala's not repping it as a change candidate. So I said Trump was going to lose. I then watched.
I think he meant to say Trump was going to win.
Videos hyping up the Kamala campaign.
Man, and he was hyping her up so much.
Changed my opinion on a 180. Okay, and then I made my final prediction on my channel in front of the people who watch.
And so this guy, he watched Kyle Kalynski and he changed his mind, right? Because Kyle's been he's been good and he's been on it for a long time. And so it just made me angry because I watch all kinds of news. I watch left, right, center stuff. And to see a lot of these left-wing people, Kyle, and there's even this group called the Left Wing Mafia. They did the same thing. They were in there talking about Kamala's gonna win and just hyping up Kamala. It made me so mad to see all these supposed left people just break all liberal because they got Trump Derangement Syndrome.
Watch my channel, saying that Kamala was going to win. Why did you do that to me? What made you so confident? What made you?
See, I didn't let him do it to me.
Kamala was going to win at the end of the day, and why did she end up falling short?
So first of all, I'm responsible for screwing over like everybody in our field, because anybody who watches any of my segments, I think I was able to convince an ungodly number of people with some amount of influence and sway.
And I couldn't take it. I could not take it.
I had to reel myself in, dude. I thought so. In my heart of hearts, the day before the election, I was like, all right, let me do 3 maps. One like worst case scenario for Kamala, one like my closest prediction, and then the other, the bull case on Kamala. And even my worst case for Kamala still had her with like 280 something electoral votes.
Trump Derangement Syndrome.
And so, but in my heart of hearts, I was thinking like, I don't even think 312 I think she might like grab Iowa or something. So like even my prediction, I
Was
sort
it
of
that
like
Dan Seltzer poll or like what?
Now you want to talk about screwing people? She really threw me, because I was already starting to feel confident based on the trajectory of the campaigns, and then when that Seltzer poll dropped,
how?
I was like,
that's what really.
The trajectory of the campaigns. How? There was no good trajectory for her. Like, I don't understand how he could say this.
Yeah,
I was really hesitant before that, and I was like, there's got to be something here in the Midwest, or like she's not. I don't think she's gonna win Iowa, but like there are some other indicators that are at play right now. But
yeah, she had such a great track record for so long.
Right.
And then
she had such a great track record for so long. I could go through some Kyle videos from a few years back where he would talk about her and the marijuana and sending kids' parents to jail and all this stuff, and now he's going to talk about she had
missed this by like
Trump Derangement Syndrome is real.
Insane like that. So that, not only that, but also Michael Moore, who's predicted every election right since 2016, and he was like the only person to have done that. He was saying Kamala landslide, and he was saying women are going to get her across the finish line and it's not going to be particularly close. So you mix that with there were also some interesting poll numbers about, how like, even though people think the country's on the wrong track, there was some good evidence for her. There was an increase in registrations among a lot of young people and young black women in particular. And then, look, I thought ultimately in the closing weeks, her last ads were pretty solid. She was going after Trump over billionaire stuff and basically connecting him to Elon Musk and connecting him to Epstein and saying, like, I'm going to represent you. And the $6,000 child tax credit was great. Picking Tim Walz was great.
I don't think
even
picking Tim Walz is
price gouging
great.
thing, she started the campaign with the ban on price gouging for groceries and sort of dropped it in the middle, then towards the end sort of brought it back up again in the closing weeks of the campaign. And I was like, when you mix her campaign being way better than Hillary 2016, in my opinion, and Trump's
Can't get much
campaign
worse
being
than
the
Hillary
worst of those
16.
three campaigns, 91 criminal charges and all that stuff, and just basically every campaign stop for Trump, he's like, I'm gonna do revenge and retribution and vengeance. And I'm sitting here going, well, whatever criticisms I have of Kamala, and I do, like Liz Cheney strategy and stuff like that,
Sure.
my criticisms of Trump are like 7 times more. And so I made the mistake of projecting my feelings sort of onto the electorate.
Right,
and
see, the
sort
more
of
liberal you
assuming
get,
everybody
the more
else
you
is paying
project.
the same amount of attention that I'm paying to it, and most importantly, that they're like sort of taking Kamala at her word when she says $6,000 child tax credit and things of that nature. But ultimately, I think it all came to naught because people just didn't believe Kamala. They view her as an insincere, inauthentic politician who doesn't believe anything.
That's
and
kind of
Trump.
accurate, though, right?
It is accurate, but when you have somebody who's just sort of like a machine politician, let's call her, versus an authoritarian fascist, I thought voters are probably going to break for, the standard politician. But that wasn't true. It turns out people...
But again, they're both fascist. You don't really have a choice. They put whoever they want up there. Trump says he's an anti-establishment, but he's been rich his entire life, been in the establishment his entire life. Can file for bankruptcy if he can't pay his bills right and still be rich and still have his money. He knows how to run the system. Like he told Hillary Clinton, he uses the tax code because she puts it there and she wouldn't take it away because her friends use it too. It's all the same people. It's all the same system. It's still fascism.
People wanted that big change. And that big change came in the form of an authoritarian, but people would rather have a revolutionary conservative than a non-revolutionary.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's basically what it comes down to for me, is that people, and this is sort of just like a perpetual thing in American politics because of how broken, corrupt, rotten to its core our economy is, our political system is. Everybody at this point, or not everybody, but most people at this point, I think, view our government as completely broken. And when you have somebody like Trump, who is at least acknowledging their pain, their suffering, here I'm going to pick out some enemies for you, even though I'm wrong about the enemies I'm picking out, like immigrants and trans people and gay people and whatever else the case may be.
Capitalism. Capitalism is your enemy.
Looking back on it, sort of doing like a Monday morning quarterback type of analysis, like it seems kind of inevitable that Trump was going to win. You have a candidate in Kamala Harris who was never really that popular to begin with. If you rewind back to the 2020 Democratic primary, she was one of the least popular candidates in that election. She had to drop out before Iowa. You know all of that. She ends up becoming the VP. She's given some tough jobs as a part of the Biden administration, like on the border, which she didn't really have that much control over the end of
The borders are.
You end up with this candidate in Kamala who's trying to run with the triangulation strategy of, let me try to win over some anti-Trump Republicans. I'll sprint to the center on immigration. I'll sprint to the center on climate change and a whole host of other issues. And I guess, again, what it comes down to at the core of it is that people are fed up with the current status quo. And so, of course, the more sort of, I guess, quote-unquote radical, or the person who is running as an anti-establishment, even if that's not true, or an anti-elite, even if that's not true, or an anti-war, even if that's not true, kind of candidate, is going to end up winning. I mean, that seems sort of inevitable, looking back on it, right? So I guess, where do Democrats go from here? Like,
hopefully to the left,
Kamala failed, Hillary failed,
because they
Biden
moved to
sort
the
of, like,
right.
squeaked by a win, given the COVID pandemic, given the economic crash that was happening at the time.
They're going to vote for Republicans over
Where do
Republican
Democrats
light
go
every
in the
time.
meantime? 'Cause
Bernie
we're hearing
Sanders,
all
go
of these
left.
different analyses from
In fact, the people just need to go
top
green.
Democratic,
Leave the Democratic
liberal
people.
punditry and whatever else the case may be about how it's the woke radical left's fault and everybody who's criticizing Biden and we didn't go hard enough on trans people or immigration or whatever else the case may be. Like, where do you think Democrats go from here? Like, is it even possible that Democrats learn the lesson from this election, from the Hillary election, and move forward in a way that is capable of challenging right-wing populism?
Let's see. We'll listen to his answer on this one, and then we'll go from there.
Liter by half day. It's a transforming 2-in-1 travel duffel bag for long weekends.
It's more possible than it was in 2016 that we get some of that, but still the most likely scenario would be what we've seen happen with Chris Murphy, where like he flirts with the right idea, he flirts with maybe economic populism is the correct way to go, but then ultimately he lands on, oh, we need a bigger tent. And by that I mean, if you're anti-trans and anti-immigrant and conservative on other social issues, welcome. We're going to now start moderating even more on social issues. I think that's the easy answer. That's the easy way out. That means you don't have to challenge your donors. So I think that is the most likely path for Democrats. But at the same time, it is more of a wild card than it's been in the past, particularly because this is such a crushing defeat that it doesn't feel like 2016, where the reaction in 2016 was like, oh, it was a fluke. Hillary won by 3 million votes anyway.
Because you won the popular vote, and
yeah,
it
let's
was a different
change.
situation.
Let's not change much. Now you have, as I'm sure you saw, people like Jen Psaki and the Pod Save Bros and David Brooks and others, at the very least, saying, Bernie may have had a point because the demographics that we lost with are the exact demographics that Bernie was strongest with. And I think that's worth something, right? So I think a lot of people, especially in DC, have a lot of non-answers in their heads. And they're sort of grasping for anything at the moment. And so that leaves a vacuum for people like you and me to come in and try to set the record straight. And
try to set the record straight when you were setting the record wrong.
That matters. So, for example, I pointed this out. But I really believe if Democrats had passed that original Build Back Better bill, I really think Kamala would have won.
Yeah.
Part of the problem with my analysis and being so sure.
So I'm gonna be interested to see how he does in the next 2 elections. If he's gonna be vote blue no matter who again, and stay liberal, or if he's gonna come back to the left and do the best politics, vote for the best people, be they Green, Democrat, or whatever. So I'm gonna leave this here. Just wanted to show. I had somebody ask me how Kyle was acting like he had Trump Derangement Syndrome, and so I saw this video and he pretty much admitted it, how he just was totally wrong. He just couldn't see the truth or whatever. So that's why I stopped watching him and saying that he had Trump Derangement Syndrome. But I'm gonna go back to probably looking at him a little bit, see what he's doing these days, and hopefully he gets better.